Conservatism is a political ideology that supports ideas like the nuclear family, organized religion, military might, property rights, and the preservation of traditional Western values. Liberalism, the ideology of modern liberalism, is typically lauded as the dominant ideological framework. In addition to arguing that governments should depend on the consent of the people they govern, it places an emphasis on the relevance of individual rights and advocates for equal legal treatment for all residents across the country. In addition, liberalism is a political ideology that advocates for a core set of essential principles that are inscribed in the Constitution: free markets, competitive elections that include many political parties, a division of governmental responsibilities across several departments. These principles include, but are not limited to, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly. Capitalism is an economic system in which private individuals or businesses own the tools and resources necessary for production and use them to generate profits. Key features include private ownership of property, free trade, competition among businesses, specialized division of work, and cooperation within society. Syndicalism, stemming from socialism, advocates for the unionization of workers, forming local, decentralized revolutionary worker organizations known as syndicates. It promotes achieving socialist goals through strikes and direct action. Once a post-capitalist society is established, syndicalism envisions a congress or commune of syndicates to represent various economic sectors instead of a centralized government. Separatism, the goal of separatism, also known as secessionism, is to establish a new nation, sovereign state, or government that is distinct from a nation that already exists. It regularly includes looking for freedom or independence from a bigger political element or country. Feminism seeks to define and establish political, economic, personal, and social equality between the sexes. It argues that societies often prioritize the male perspective and that women are treated unfairly. Efforts to address this include challenging gender stereotypes and enhancing educational and professional opportunities for women. Environmentalism, also known as green politics, encompasses various ideologies centered on the belief that nature should play a crucial role in shaping public policy. This includes efforts to increase recycling, reduce CO2 emissions, prevent water pollution, and more. Republicanism is an ideology that favors a government that opposes monarchy and hereditary rule. In a republican state where the people hold political power, it gives citizens more power. Imperialism has pushed for a country to utilize armed methods to strengthen its authority or influence. It was previously widely accepted and considered mainstream, but with time its popularity has declined. Colonialism is defined by its aid to war and the notion that strong nations ought to control more vulnerable ones. It regularly employs the argument that colonial people benefit from the support and resources offered by wealthier countries to defend themselves against allegations of oppression. Transhumanism is the belief that everyone should use technology to enhance themselves and overcome both basic and complex human challenges. The ultimate goal is for all people to achieve immortality and attain highly advanced minds and bodies. Authoritarianism is a system of government characterized by centralized power that demands obedience to authority and restricts political and civil freedoms. Classic monarchies are examples of authoritarianism, where rulers often imprison and persecute their opponents to maintain control. Nazism is a kind of fascism focused on a racist ideology that preaches the supremacy of the Aryan race. It claims that the Aryan race should govern the globe to better it, expressing ultranationalism. According to Nazi standards, an Aryan is someone who is white, straight, intellectually and physically competent, non-cowardly, and non-Jewish. Those not fulfilling this definition are classified as Untermenschen or subhuman. Nazism emphasizes eugenics, trying to improve the genetic quality of the human population. Consequently, those with genetic defects were judged useless eaters and were routinely slaughtered or transferred to camps, regarded as life unworthy of life. Nazism also targeted gays, classifying them as subhuman. Communitarianism is an ideology that places emphasis on the well-being and significance of the community as the fundamental social unit. It argues that the traditional left-right political divide restricts progress and contends that policies from both ends of the spectrum are essential and complementary for the community's benefit. Communitarianism asserts that extreme individualism can be detrimental when it conflicts with the collective good. Fascism despotism proclaims that people are fragile when partitioned regions of power are nevertheless connected under a normal standard like a state, nation, or armed force. It is an ideology of authoritarianism typified by a dominating government that rejects multi-party elections and a strong central authority, typically a dictator, thereby rejecting the separation of powers. Dictatorship is also ultranationalist, recognizing that a country needs to concentrate on its own benefits without consideration for the rights of foreign nations. This ultranationalism usually coexists with militarism, the view that a country needs to have a powerful military in order to extend its interests and values. Fascism encourages the subjugation of individual interests for the perceived welfare of the country or race, defends a natural social order, and employs force to repress resistance. Egalitarianism is a philosophy centered on the concept of social equality, emphasizing that all people should be treated equally. It advocates for all citizens of a state to have equal rights and treatment under the law. Progressivism holds that traditions from the past should not be considered sacred and should be viewed as less important than societal progress. It essentially stands in opposition to conservatism. Populism tries to appeal to a vast number of people, emphasizing their wishes and concerns. It maintains that the will of the people should prevail. Populism may take numerous shapes, as its major criteria is to represent a movement by the people, for the people, making it politically adaptable, often connected with democracies because of its dependence on public support. Populism generally compares the people with the elite and is typically anti-establishment and anti-political. Anarchism is an ideology that emphasizes freedom and advocates for a society devoid of formal rulers. It proposes abolishing the state and replacing it with voluntary, free associations and stateless societies. Because communism places an emphasis on communal ownership of the means of production, distribution, and exchange, it ensures that goods are distributed to all members of society according to their level of need. In a socialist society, there is no confidential property, social classes, cash, or state. Libertarianism promotes individual autonomy and political freedom to the greatest extent possible and regards liberty as a fundamental ideal. It argues for a small government role in individuals' lives and gives norms with radicalism, including uniformity under the law and the essential liberties to life, freedom, and property. The corporatist approach, corporatism, is a political ideology that argues for the division of society into distinct domains, such as agriculture, the military, engineering, and so on, as well as the assignment of responsibilities to individuals based on their interests and capabilities. A collaborative regulatory framework is supported by this proposal. Within this framework, the state, businesses, and workers all agree to regulate the economy in a way that is both effective and conceptually satisfying to all parties involved. Importantly, corporatism does not refer to a political system that is wholly dominated by huge economic interests that would be a whole other notion. Socialism encompasses various types. Traditionally, it involves worker ownership of production means, supports worker empowerment, democratic self-management, and workplace democracy. In modern contexts, it advocates for workers' democratic control, higher taxes on the wealthy, and state ownership of key industries. Central values include social ownership and syndicalism. Moderation seeks to operate inside the Overton window, which is a collection of rules that describe the range of policies that are socially acceptable to the majority of people. In general, directors do not express any opinions, which demonstrates that they are indifferent with respect to political concerns, yet they do have a fundamental understanding of the difficulties that are faced by the government.